Are Manchester City about to lose yet another really important player in both our history and in the current squad? Raheem Sterling, a player we have had for what, 6, 7 years now, around that, is on the brink of leaving the club. And this is something, Joe, we have talked about for quite a while now, because we've had an up and down feeling that Raheem Sterling maybe didn't want to be here, or Pep didn't see Raheem Sterling as, a starting 11 player week in, week out. And Sterling obviously does see himself as that, and he naturally probably feels he should move somewhere else if that isn't to be the case at Manchester City. Now, the talk of it happening is increasing. Serious journalists are putting out information, and it seems to be the main club who are circling around and hovering around his signature is our good rivals in the Premier League, which is hard to see. It would be hard to watch this happening, but Raheem Sterling to Chelsea, Joe, is what's on the cards at the minute. And when you weigh it up for him from a personal perspective, he's from London. Chelsea will probably pay him similar to what he's on currently. It'll be another big contract for him, plenty of money, and there is obviously always with Chelsea the potential for trophies. But we're going to talk about these tweets here. We've got the main one is obviously from Fabrizio Romano, someone you all know very well at this point. He says, Raheem Sterling, Chelsea top target as reported last Tuesday. Man City want around 55 to 60 million euro. Approach for 25 million and add-ons turned down. Chelsea will be back with a new bid as soon as City are open to let him go. Man City want 100 million or 110 million from Gabriel Jesus and Sterling sales. So obviously Chelsea, if you ask me in this situation, Joe, are being really fucking cheeky. 25 million for Raheem Sterling. Now listen, I know he only has a year left on his contract, but just to put it into perspective, when we sold Leroy Sané, he had 1 year left on his contract. And he had just been absent for a year with an ACL injury, and we got 50 million for him from Bayern Munich. Chelsea coming in with 25 for Raheem Sterling is a piss take. First of all, Joe, what are your opinions on losing Raheem Sterling, and how do you feel about this initial approach from Chelsea?
I don't want to lose him. It's as simple as that. I don't want to lose him. I don't think we can afford to lose him. He had something that no other player in our current squad adds, and if you look at what some articles from The Athletic are saying, sounds like City aren't even going to bother replacing him, or at least aren't thinking of doing it at this moment in time if we lose him, not replacing him, which is, to be quite honest, I think it's ridiculous because we don't have anyone who has what he offers, and if we're going to lose him, then we are losing a totally, different dynamic, almost a plan B, even though he's far too good to be a plan B. He'd be a plan A. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. I think that he is going to be crucial next season if he sticks around, but it's looking like he's not going to be sticking around, which I can somewhat understand. He hasn't played regular football for maybe 2.5 years, something like that. He's been in and out of the team. Obviously, his form has dipped. And we're holding on to this whole point of bringing in Alvarez and Haaland and him bringing his game back and him getting his numbers up and being more confident and playing better on that right-hand side with the number 9 next to him, which, if you look at previous records, it suggests that Mahrez's time with a number 9 is a little bit streaky. His first season wasn't great, but we know this with first season players. His second season was better, but he really blossomed when he was that guy who was supposed to score goals when he didn't have a striker next to him. Sterling was the complete opposite. He blossomed when he had a number 9, a focal point that he could, rely on to score goals and he could feed off. So I think losing him is a big, big mistake. Obviously, if he wants to leave, then our hands are tied. We've got to lose him. Like, if he doesn't want to be here, then sell him. Like, I don't want a player unhappy. I don't want a player that could potentially unsettle things in the dressing room. I'd rather have players who want to be here. And I mean, I'm seeing far too many cool heads on Twitter at the moment about this, and I don't understand. He's so good. He is so good. People saying that, there was I think Sam Lee was saying that Palmer will be playing on the right next season. He's a similar player to Mahrez. He's sort of almost like a direct replacement. He's not a Sterling type player. He doesn't add anything different. It would almost be like for like. So if you need something to change the game on the right hand side, your real only option at the moment, if we sell Sterling, is Alvarez, who is by trade a number 9. So I think it's a mistake if we sell him, but we might just have to. It might just be, we sell him now or lose him for absolutely nothing. But I take your point about the bid from Chelsea. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what they think they're doing, offering 25 million for Sterling, who is a player who is in his prime, who is a proven Premier League player, who is homegrown, who in previous years has been crucial to this side. considering, like you said, the Sane deal, he'd come off an ACL, he had 12 months left on his contract, who sold him for 50 million. Sadio Mane's just left to Bayern Munich with, I think he had a year left, he's in his 30s, and they got 40 million for him, so I think 25 million is just flat out ridiculous.
They're talking about, or there is talk that Cole Palmer is going to become a right wing feature next season, but it's not fair for Cole Palmer to come in and have to sort of maybe take over the role that Sterling did. Along those lines, like, it's very easy to forget how long Sterling has been here, and it's also very easy to forget he's one of the club's all-time top goal scorers. This guy is, whether you like it or not, he has big stats and he's a big player. He's a leader in the dressing room, a whole heap of experience, and multiple time Premier League winner. It would be absolutely, to take him out of the dressing room, it would have a massive effect on, I think, the club overall. Whether he's not scoring enough or he's missing, clean cut chances very often or not, him as a figure in the dressing room is huge. And from City's perspective, just to kind of play devil's advocate for a sec, they're probably thinking, he's one of the top earners of the club, very, big wage bill kind of thing, and they're thinking, do we want to take the risk are we willing to take the risk that he may or may not come good having a striker beside him, and then lose him in 12 months' time if he hasn't come good, kind of thing. It's a hard one to look at. And according to Jacob Steinberg, he says Chelsea will step up their interest further when Lukaku's loan to Inter is completed. It looks like Romelu Lukaku's going to go to Inter Milan on some sort of a loan deal, and then Chelsea will look to bring him in. And like I said, Chelsea will probably pay him whatever it is he's on at City, or maybe even more, who knows. According to Sam Lee, he says Chelsea are growing in confidence that they can complete a deal for Raheem Sterling, who has been talking to people about what life is like at Chelsea and what Tuchel is like. One Chelsea source believes the only stumbling block is the size of the fee. I think if Chelsea are going to get him, if I was in the City boardroom, I would be saying 60 million at a minimum. 60 million pounds sterling at a minimum. You have to bear in mind here, we are not a club who is stuck for cash. And I know people hate when we say these kind of things, but let's call a spade a spade. Manchester City Football Club, cash is not an issue. But if you want one of our prized possessions, you can pay top dollar. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to lose him next year in a free, it is what it is kind of thing, if you ask me. I understand if you're a fan of another club, you're thinking of, no, we wouldn't want to pay this much, or we can't lose this player for free. It's not really a massive issue for me as a fan anyway. Maybe the board members would feel differently. I'm sure they do, but Raheem Sterling's a massive, massive asset. Yeah, he's not just a great football player. He's also a public figure. He's got world fame, and he's got influence over things. This guy, he can't lose. He's not a £25 million player. 1 year left on his contract or not. This guy's not £25 million. What a cheeky bid from Chelsea, if you ask me, man. £60 million is what I'd be saying, or else we just... £60 million, you get him, or else we'll just hold on to him, and you can have him for free next year if it doesn't work out. What's the worst? Be below par, and then you go, right, that didn't work out, we'll let him go for free. I don't know, Joe. It's an annoying one, really. Do you think 60 million is a fair valuation, or would you be looking for more?
Yes, 60 million, considering all the factors, is a fair valuation. Like, if he had more years left on his contract, you'd be looking at 80 million minimum. Like, we're talking a player in his prime. English tax comes into things. We are not in a position, like you said, we're not stuck for cash. We don't necessarily need the money. So, we're in that situation where we don't need it, but, if they come in with the right offer and the player wants to leave, then you just let him go. I hate when this happens, when you have players running into the last year of the contract. I always like to... in my personal opinion, I think it's great to have and City have done this multiple times, when it gets to 2 years left on the contract, you make a decision when they've got 2 years left. You either extend the contract or you sell him, so you don't have to worry about losing him for free. You don't have to worry about trying to find a decent price for an asset who's going to be free in 6 months at the same time next year. And unfortunately, we're in this situation where, similar with Gabriel Jesus, we have a set price, but we don't really have too much, bargaining room, because it's a player who could be free in 6 months. And we've been saying for a while now that out of Mahrez, Jesus and Sterling, surely we're not going to lose two. We're definitely not going to lose all three. I'm not sure this is the right move again, but if they pay the money and the player wants to leave, no player's bigger than the club. If he's unhappy, sell him. That's what I say. That's the bottom line. If he doesn't want to be here, then... if a club can cough up the money and take him away, then so be it. We just have to live with it. I mean, I'm still clinging on to a little bit of hope. Chelsea have been linked to Ousmane Dembele, who I'm hoping they might go for instead, because I believe he's a free agent, so there won't be any transfer fee involved, so it could be a cheaper deal all round. I think they'll want similar wages. So I'm hoping that they choose that deal instead. But at the moment, as it stands, it looks like they're very keen on Sterling, and I hope it doesn't happen. But right now, I don't see how he stays, to be honest. I'm hoping he gives it, a little bit of time at the start of the season to see what his game time is like. But I don't know. It seems very difficult to see him here.
Above all, if this happens and he goes to Chelsea, I'll be disappointed in Raheem Sterling himself. Genuinely, a club in Manchester City who's given him so much, both financially and success and lifestyle kind of thing. For you to then go and turn around and move to one of our direct rivals in the same league in all competitions, I just view that as a massive kick in the teeth. And I think, if we're being honest with ourselves and we're putting our hands on our hearts, I think it is evident with Sterling. So maybe it's just him, but in his body language a lot of the time suggests that he doesn't really get emotionally attached to football clubs. He doesn't really get emotionally attached to the fans. Just little things like when the players are all celebrating a goal together, he a lot of the time he won't run over and celebrate with the players. So it's kind of just, I don't know, but I will be disappointed. It'll be very hard and sad to see him go. I don't know what sort of reception he'd get when he comes to the Etihad to play against City for Chelsea. I mean, you can imagine there'll be a lot of unhappy City fans if this happens, and myself and Joe are obviously two of them. Listen, get down below in the comments and let us know your thoughts on Raheem Sterling to Chelsea and the figures talked. Do us a massive favour as well. If you would leave a like on the video, it helps us massively. And of course, subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 3K subs right now. Very exciting time, so do help us out in that front. Good night and God bless.